Welcome to Mild Moodcast, a podcast meant to explore mental health through the lens of another human hanging on by a thread. I'm Bianca, a registered mental health counselor intern, soon to be LMHC, here to chat about the topics we don't get enough of. So grab your headphones and let's dive into the crazy world of mental health. It's going to be a wild ride. What's up, guys? Happy Sunday or whatever day it is that you're listening to this, and welcome back to another episode of Mild Moodcast. I'm super stoked for today's episode, but I'm not going to tell you why. I'm just going to have you stick around and figure it out. If you haven't already noticed, the title of the episode is Depression as a Spiritual Wake-Up Call, Reframing the Darkness. Now, it might sound weird, and I have a whole lot of different kind of disclaimers or just things to say throughout this, but stick with me. I think you're going to like the topic. As always, while my podcast is meant to spark reflection and curiosity, it is not a replacement for therapy. If you're navigating heavy emotions or challenges, please reach out to a professional. Therapy is a safe space to process and grow. You know, some part of me feels like I should record myself saying that, and save it and paste it in here, but I literally say it at the start of every episode. And if you get tired of it, sorry, but it's just the truth. Sometimes we need that reminder that this is not a replacement for therapy. It's great. It's super useful. It's helpful, but there's nothing like having your own person. So today's episode is one of those topics that might make some people pause. I want to talk about depression, but not in the way that we usually do. Instead of seeing it as just a malfunction or something to get rid of, what if we saw it as a messenger? What if, instead of fighting it, we asked, what is it trying to tell me? Now, before we go any further, I want to make something really clear. This is not about romanticizing suffering. I'm not saying, oh, depression is this beautiful experience you should be grateful for. No, I know firsthand how brutal it can be, but I also know that some of my most painful moments have held the biggest truths. The problem is we're taught to silence depression instead of listening to it. And that makes sense, right? We live in a world that prioritizes productivity over presence. If we're not functioning, if we're not keeping up, we are seen as broken. But what if depression isn't breaking you? What if it's breaking through? So today we're going to explore depression as a potential wake-up call, a sign that something deeper is stirring within you, asking for attention. For the longest time, the mainstream conversation around depression has been very one-dimensional. It's either purely biological imbalance, or it's a problem that needs fixing, usually with medication, therapy, or productivity hacks. And look, those are very important. Medication and therapy can be life-saving, and I don't want anybody to bypass over that for the sake of this conversation. No, it's necessary. But what often gets missed is the why behind it all. We don't ask, what if depression isn't the problem, but the symptom? What if instead of being something to numb or ignore, it's actually trying to guide us towards something we've been avoiding? And I just want to say, there have been many people who will say, well, I'm depressed, and they go to the doctor or they go to a psychiatrist and they get medication, and they notice a little bit of a difference, but not a ton. And that's because I personally am a firm believer that both having a therapist, talking things out, and taking medication, they go hand in hand. You know, if you don't feel like you need medication, that's one thing. But if you're taking medication, the medication isn't going to make this go away. And I think that this conversation will paint you a picture as to why. Now, let's flip the script. If we see depression as a wake-up call, it starts to take on a new meaning. Instead of asking, how do I get rid of this? We start asking, what is this trying to reveal? For a lot of people, depression hits hardest when we're disconnected. from our true selves, from our purpose, from our emotions. It's like having an internal alarm system going off saying, hey, something here isn't working. And we can either keep hitting snooze or we can start paying attention. Reflect for a moment on this, if you will. What if depression wasn't something to get rid of, but something to listen to? Okay, so if depression can sometimes be a message, what exactly is it trying to say? Here are a few possibilities that I want you guys to sit with. 1, you are living out of alignment. This is a big one. Depression often shows up when we're living a life that doesn't truly fit us. Maybe it's the job that drains you, the relationship that isn't fulfilling, or the version of yourself that you've outgrown but are still clinging to. And I know that when you're in it, it feels impossible to change. But sometimes that exhaustion that you feel, that loss of motivation, is because your soul is tired of pretending. It's tired of forcing something that isn't right anymore. 2, you are suppressing something deep. Depression can be a sign that emotions are trying to surface, but don't have anywhere to go. Maybe it's grief you never processed. Maybe it's anger you were never allowed to express. Maybe it's part of yourself you've buried because you were taught they were too much. I hate the words too much. And when we suppress something for long enough, our bodies and minds start waving red flags. It's like a pressure cooker. You can ignore it for a while, but eventually it's going to explode. And if that was a little bit of a hard pill to swallow, I hate to break it to you, but eventually it's going to explode on its own. 3, you need stillness to hear yourself. I think this one's important. So important. Depression slows us down, sometimes against our will. And while that's frustrating, sometimes it's the only way we actually stop long enough to check in with ourselves. And that's really scary, right? But think about it. How often do we really sit with ourselves? No distractions, no numbing, no pushing through. So depression might be forcing a stillness that allows something deeper to surface. 4, you're being asked to let go of control. The way this one hits deep. So many of us experience depression when we feel like we're losing control over our lives, over our relationships, over the things we thought would bring us happiness. But what if that loss of control isn't a punishment? What if it's an invitation to surrender? There is so much pressure to have everything figured out, but maybe depression is telling us you don't have to. It's okay to pause. It's okay to not have all the answers right now. And to be honest with you, that is my biggest lesson right now. Learning to let go, learning to surrender, knowing that it's okay to not have all the answers right now. That's obviously why I started all of this, is because I was like, you know what? I am a human hanging on by a thread. I help teach people to regulate their emotions, to learn better coping skills, to make better decisions in life, all while simultaneously doing and learning the exact same things. I think I said in another episode very early on that even after you grow through something, you revisit it from a different perspective. And every time I think I've gotten to a point of complete surrender, and for where I am at the moment, yeah, that is the truth, something else creeps up and I have to figure out how to deal with it. So many of us experience a struggle for control. And not in the way that you want to control other people, just in the way that you have a vision for your life, or you'd like to have a vision for your life. Some people have no idea what they want to do and they hate that feeling because they feel like they have no control. But they almost never relate it to the word control because it's scary. But I literally just talk about these things because I've experienced them too. So if I talk about it or we talk about it, it becomes more normalized. You guys might be able to take a breath and go, damn, I'm not the only one. But let's keep going. Now, I know some people hear all of this and think, okay, but I don't feel like I'm awakening. I just feel stuck. And I get that. Not every depression is some profound spiritual breakthrough, and that's okay. But I do think there's power in shifting our perspective. Think about it for a second. Every major transformation in history, in myth, in spirituality, what comes before the breakthrough? If you said darkness, you're right. Struggle. The cocoon before the butterfly. The dark night of the soul before clarity. So if you're in a dark place right now, I want you to hold on to the possibility that this isn't the end of your story. Maybe, just maybe, it's the beginning of something new. If there's one thing I want you to take from this, it's that your depression does not mean you're broken. You are not defective. You are not failing. You are being called to something deeper, whether that's healing, realignment, or simply learning to sit with yourself in a way that you never have before. So today I invite you to reflect. What might my depression be trying to show me? If you feel called, write it down, journal about it, sit with it. And if this episode resonated with you, I'd love for you to share it with someone who might need to hear it. When I say let's keep this conversation going, that's exactly what I mean, week to week. Before we wrap up, I wanted to do something a little different today. And this is what I mentioned at the beginning. I know that for some of you, this conversation may have sparked something. Maybe a new way to look at things. Maybe just a moment of reflection. And for others, that might be enough for today. And that's completely okay. But if you feel like you want to sit with this a little longer, I want to offer you a short guided practice. This isn't about fixing anything or forcing meaning. It's just a space to pause, to listen, and give yourself the time you might not usually take. So if that sounds good to you, keep listening. But if you've gotten what you needed today and you're ready to move on, the podcast portion ends here. Thank you for being here, for reflecting with me, and for giving yourself the space to explore these ideas. Until next time, take care of yourself. So I'm calling this guided reflection listening to the message in your darkness. I also recognize that this is a very heavy topic for a lot of people, and I wanted to be able to provide this space today. So if you're still here, thank you. I would encourage you to find a quiet space, something comfortable. Close your eyes if that feels right, and take a few deep breaths before starting. Maybe some part of this conversation felt a little overwhelming for you, and you just need to ground for a second before we get into this. Before we begin, I want you to take a deep breath in and slowly exhale. Feel your body wherever you are, your feet on the ground, your back against the chair, the weight of your hands resting in your lap. Take another deep breath in and let it out slowly. No matter how heavy things feel in this moment, you are here. You are safe. You are present. Now I want you to bring your awareness to your emotions. How are you truly feeling right now? Not how you think you should feel, but what is actually present for you. If you had to name your emotions in this moment, what words come up? Maybe it's exhaustion. Maybe sadness, frustration, or numbness. Whatever it is, just acknowledge it without judgment. You don't need to fix it. You don't need to push it away. Just notice it, like you're an observer watching a river flow by. Now I want you to imagine that your depression, your heaviness, could speak to you. If it had a voice, what would it say? What is it trying to tell you? Does it want you to slow down? Does it want you to stop pretending? Does it want you to release something you've been holding on to for too long? Listen. Just listen. Maybe no words come up, and that's okay. Maybe you just feel something, a pull, a resistance, an emotion rising to the surface. Whatever is here, allow it to exist. Now ask yourself, in what areas of my life do I feel disconnected? Is there a part of me I've been neglecting? A truth I've been avoiding? A version of myself I've outgrown? And if I could honor what my depression is asking of me, just in a small way, what would that look like? Before we close, I want you to place your hand over your heart. Feel the warmth of your own touch. Feel your breath steady and alive. No matter how lost you feel, you are still here, still moving forward, even when it doesn't feel like it. I want you to repeat after me, out loud if you can, or in your mind if that feels better. I am not broken. I am allowed to feel this. I am listening to what I need. When you're ready, take one more deep breath in and exhale. Gently bring yourself back to the present moment. Wiggle your fingers and toes, and when you're ready, open your eyes. Thank yourself for showing up today. Even if no answers came, even if it still feels messy, you took time to listen, and that's a step forward. That's all for today. If this reflection brought anything up for you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Send me a message or share your reflections if you feel called to. And as always, be gentle with yourself. See you next time. Bye, guys. Thanks for tuning in to Mild Moodcast. Remember, the conversation doesn't end here. If you have any burning questions or topics you'd like me to cover, don't hesitate to reach out. You can find me on YouTube at Mild Moodcast and Instagram at Mild Mood Therapy. Let's keep the conversation going and continue to explore the wonderful world of mental health together. Until next time, stay curious and keep smiling.